Able to be with you today. We are talking about divine ability, our ability to access the divine realm of ability, and three keys of understanding that we have to be able to move into this realm more and more. I truly believe that we are here in life to develop the potentials that reside within us. I want to thank you for being a part of this moment today. Those of you who are subscribers to jasonpowell.faith on YouTube already, thank you for being a part of this community. If you're not already, I invite you to click subscribe on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, I invite you to follow us there as well. So let's just open this time with an understanding of what we're talking about. What is divine ability? Divine ability is simply divine power. And power is in levels. Sometimes we think that because we're not functioning at a certain level that we don't have an ability, but we do have an ability. And so today I want to just usher us into an awareness of who we are and an awareness of how to activate this ability at various levels. I want to first put this disclaimer in here. I do not claim to operate at the highest capacity of the divine ability that resides within me. That's my connection to God. However, my own testimonies of the use of that divine ability to create states of freedom in my own experience are undeniable. And so as I operate it, as I move in faith, as I have a greater realization of that divine power at work within myself, and times where I access it and times where I don't, it's helpful to begin to communicate that and to share that with others. So I want to base our discussion today from a text that I think provides some insight here. All right. And you'll see this text in the Bible, and it simply says, grace and peace be multiplied to you in the knowledge of God and of Jesus our Lord. Verse 3 says, as his divine power has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who has called us by glory and virtue. And so there's an awareness here that there is a certain grace, which is a divine favor. There is a peace, which is a shalom or a total well-being. There's a divine favor and there's a total well-being. There's a grace and a peace that is multiplied in our experience that we receive through a knowledge or through an understanding or through an inner knowing. And so I want us to remember today that there is an inner knowing that you possess. There is an inner knowledge that must be awakened, that must be stirred. And when this inner knowing and when this inner knowledge is awakened and stirred, there is an access that we are granted. Now let's go back to that and look deeper. Grace and peace be multiplied to you in the knowledge of God. God is the essence of all that is. I would like for you to say, God is the essence of all that is. The life that you have, the space that you move in, it is a result of that presence of the divine, that presence of God that gives you animation, that gives you life, that gives you vitality. It's the essence of all that is. It's God. The scriptures declare it's in him that we live and move and have our being. So you move in the ocean of God's life-giving waters. You are the embodiment of the offspring of the divine. And so as you move through life with an awareness that you are the offspring of the divine, that you have a working knowledge, an inner knowing of your connection to the divine, it makes all things new. And we'll see this in this verse 3. It says, as his divine power has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness. All right, now, first of all, I want to stop and look at where these three keys are, okay? I want to pull these three keys from the first part of verse 3. In the first part of verse 3, it says again, as his divine power has given unto us all things that pertain to life and godliness. I want to first go to the word godliness as our first key. Now, I don't want you to think of this in a religious, boxed-in mindset. I want you to think of this word godliness in a liberated understanding of God as spirit and consciousness as the essence of all that is. God as the essence of all that is. Now, in this word godliness, it is an awakening of our understanding that you and I are a part of God. What was that mystical revelation in the first chapter of Genesis, where it says God created them in God's image and God's likeness? So it's talking about the fact that God is spirit and you and I are spirit. And since we are spirit, the spiritual aspect of who we are is a reflection of God. I would like for you to affirm, my spirit is a reflection of God. Say it again. My spirit is a reflection of God. This is the first key that we're talking about. It's understanding what spiritual godliness is, not religious godliness. I'm talking about metaphysical godliness. I'm talking about spiritual godliness. It is an inner knowing of your connection to the divine. When you have a developed understanding and an inner knowing that your spirit, the essence of who you are, is connected to God, is connected to the divine, is a reflection of God, then you see yourself differently. You move through life differently because you recognize that I'm not separate from the goodness of God. I am made one with the goodness of God because my spirit, my being, my center is an emanation of the Godhead. My spirit, my center of being, is a reflection, is the offspring of the Spirit of the living God. And when we have this first key working in our understanding that we are a reflection, an offspring of the living God, how many know it begins to open up a portal of awareness? And a portal of awareness is there to grant us access to something. You and I, when we begin to see, this is the first key, when we begin to see that we are connected to God and that godliness in that verse 3, spiritually speaking, is an awareness of our connection to God. It's an awareness of our oneness with the Spirit of the living God. Taking away sin consciousness, taking away religious mindsets that nullify the awareness of your oneness with the beauty of God, allowing all that to drop away. That first realization of godliness is a metaphysical awareness of your connection to spirit. Say, God is my source. Watch this. That simple awareness opens the pathway to dissolve blockages that prevent our good, all right? So if I'm going to enter a realm of divine ability in my life, that means when I might experience a tight situation with a person or a condition or an event, those situations don't have the final say, and I can go to an inner knowing that activates divine ability. Did you hear that? You can go to an inner knowing that activates divine ability. The first key that unlocks it is an awareness that your spirit is connected to God. Now, going to that second key that I want to lift up from that verse where it says that his divine power in verse 3 has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. That second key, I want to look at the word life. Say life, 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 life. Jesus said that I am come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And now Jesus' declaration of life was a Zoe, God kind of life. Jesus was literally saying that my spirit, my presence, my embodiment of God is for you to receive the God kind of life. So therefore, when I am living my experience in this physical world, I have a recognition and a realization first of the first key that unlocks access, which is that my spirit is connected to God and is a reflection of God. And then two, that I'm moving through life with an awareness of God's ability. The second aspect of that word life is understanding that everything you see in the external world is a reflection of the inner unseen world. The esoteric, the inner, the unseen, the hidden realm of thought and mind and belief and spirit is where the incubation or the womb of life is, and what we experience in our external world is an emanation or a birthing of what came out of the unseen. So understanding, the second key of understanding is life equals the expression of the unseen. Life equals the expression of consciousness. Somebody say life equals the expression of consciousness. So when I have an understanding that my physical form is not all there is, then I move through life with these two keys already now that we're starting to talk about, these two keys of understanding that unlock our access to divine ability. Again, what do I mean by divine ability? It's our ability to tap a realm where things can work out in our favor for our good without struggling in strife and in contention with others in the natural, because you're going to an unseen source where things have a way of shifting in your favor. This is called divine ability, and we access it. We talked about the first key, an awareness of godliness, or our oneness with the Spirit of God. Life, we talked about, is an expression or an emanation of the unseen realm. Now I want us to go to this third key that we're just lifting from this verse 3, as his divine power has given us access, or has given to us all things that pertain to life and godliness. That third key of awareness, that third key of understanding, I just want you to recognize all things. All things equals the essence of all that is. What did the writer in Hebrews say? Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. In other words, the substance for all things is found in faith. And as Christian mystic Neville Goddard said, which I love his teachings and revelations for us, he simply said, faith is loyalty to an unseen reality. So when you have an unseen reality that exists in consciousness, that exists in your mind, an ideal, a passion, a pursuit, an awareness beyond what your physical senses are currently telling you, and you stir up the realization of that in your consciousness, in your visualization, in your heart, it is an embodiment of that logos, that word of God. It becomes a word of God in your experience. It becomes the word of God in your experience, and it prophesies your future, because you are then no longer tied to the external world of circumstance, but you go to the realm of cause. Watch this. We're talking about activating divine ability through three keys of understanding, which opens our awareness. And when our awareness is opened, we enter a realm where life can shift to work in our favor beyond the confines of our natural experience, or what we're presently experiencing. Let me give an example really quickly. Let me give an example. Through choices of my own, I once caused myself to be in a challenging situation where I had an individual in my life that was not good for me, that could have been dangerous. Now, I attracted that individual again because I allowed myself to enter a vulnerable state of hurt from a prior situation with an individual. And so that hurt created a space where I was no longer attracting that which I desired, but I was attracting from a place of hurt and vulnerability. Have you ever been there? And how many know when we don't keep our energy clear, when we don't keep our energy right, then we open ourselves to negative experiences. And so my energy towards someone that had exited my life wasn't right. Therefore, I attracted someone else who wasn't right for me and created something that could have been a horrible situation. But in the middle of it, I recognized what I was doing in myself. I realized that because my energy wasn't right, I was attracting an experience that wasn't for my good. Somebody say you've been there. Hey, Roy, Dr. Smith, right. And so what I did was I switched gears and recognized what the realm of causation was, right? And so then I began to visualize a flushing out of my life, that individual. For me, what I did was I visualized a river flowing that was taking away out of my life everything that was causing negative energy, and there was a peaceful result and the highest good of all involved was the result. And so what I would do is I would lay in my bed and I would visualize that energy, that whoosh, that wind, that river, carrying anything that was not for my good out of my experience, and that the end result being the highest good of all. And I would visualize that day after day. And when I tell you that it it opened the pathway for a harmonious transition. I'm not even talking about people that you know about in my life. I'm not talking about anybody that you might know about. And so it was wonderful for me to realize when I switched the energy of consciousness within myself and began to visualize the harmonious end and the highest good of all being manifested, things shifted in my favor. That which could have been a dangerous experience ended up working out for good. And all I'm saying to us today is that in that moment, I had access to divine ability that worked out situations for me that I couldn't have worked out on my own. It could have been a dangerous situation with that individual. And this was years ago. But it didn't go there because I recognized what I was doing within my own consciousness. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to fight this in the natural. This is a message for somebody. Some things we try to fight in the natural and we try to war with people. But if you'll go to an unseen realm, you can flush it out of your experience. I'm talking from an experience I have had. You can flush out a dangerous experience from your life through the function of your visualization and your consciousness. When I tell you that situation worked out for the highest good of all, and the worst that could have happened was reverted or was converted into the highest good for all involved. I just want to declare over you that there is a divine ability that is awakening in your experience through these three keys of understanding. One, knowing that godliness, which is that metaphysical realization of your oneness with God. Two, that life is the emanation or the expression of consciousness. And three, that all things are accessible to you through consciousness. All things are yours in the realm of spirit. When you stir it up in consciousness, those three keys of understanding open up a portal whereby we can move through life, not as ones limited by merely flesh and blood, but as ones who are made alive by an inner knowing, an inner awareness that you can move through life and outgrow old conditions and overcome challenges and dissipate dangerous situations through the function of the awareness of the presence of God in you. And your visualization and your consciousness and your working it out in your heart motives produces a result. And so I just want to have everyone today renew your awareness to the fact that you are a being that is covered and guided by God. And I also want you to realize that if these kinds of things are blessing your life, I invite you to give. You can go to jasonpowell.faith to donate as we send these messages out more. Because people have to know that your consciousness is a creative force. Your consciousness is creative substance. And when we use our substance in life, our consciousness, our time, our talent, our treasure, our resources, as a respect for consciousness above all, respect for God, a respect for the realm of spirit above all, we align ourselves, we align our lives with the motivating force, the motivating energy of the universe, of all that is, which causes good to be expressed over and above the calamities and the negative experiences of the world around us. You are a spirit being. You have spirit moving in you, moving through you, walking in you, moving in you. And this awareness that you are spirit, this awareness that you have divine life, is something that causes you and I to not fall down at the mercy of a difficult situation. Just because you experience a challenge does not mean that there's not something very great within you. That challenge is just an opportunity to switch gears and awaken the spiritual resources that you have within you. You are not meant to succumb to the challenge. You are not meant to be at the mercy of the challenge. You have a strong spirit and a sound mind. And your strong spirit and your sound mind is awakened to walk in divine ability when you have these three keys of understanding working in you. One, your godliness is the fact that your spirit is an emanation of God. Therefore, you are a reflection of God. Say, I am a reflection of God. I want you to say, I am a reflection of God. That's key number one of understanding. That's spiritual godliness. It's a recognition of your own divine identity in the realm of spirit. That's an access portal of understanding to divine ability, okay? Your spirit, you have a divine identity. Key number one. Key number two is that you have life, and your life is an emanation, it's an expression of consciousness. What appears in your life, this understanding is a key. What appears in my life is an emanation, it's a reflection of consciousness. And as the great mystic Neville Goddard declared over and over again, consciousness is the one and only reality. Not what religious traditions or human cultures or people think in their own myopic groups or states where they say, well, this is right and this is wrong. Wait a minute. There's a spirit that is in you. It's a spirit of love. It is a spirit of life. And from that place, Jesus himself declared that on this law hangs all the law and the prophets. It's the law of love. And when you understand that life is an expression of consciousness, that's key number two, it liberates you. Now, key number three, that all things you have access to in the realm of spirit. You have access to in the realm of consciousness. Even the Apostle Paul declared from his state of heightened revelation, all things are yours. And so they are ours, not in our ability to detect it in the human experience alone, but in our understanding that consciousness, spirit, is all pervasive, and it's what we have access to. It's what we have access to. And these things open up the realm of divine ability. Remember, I shared a story just a few minutes ago. I shared a story of what it meant for me to outgrow a potential dangerous situation with an individual that I attracted into my experience because of unresolved hurt. And my unresolved hurt attracted a negative experience with a new individual into my experience, which could have become dangerous. I recognized what I did in my own consciousness to attract that experience, shifted my visualizations, recognized that that person needed to be flushed out of my experience with the highest good of all involved. And with that repetitive visualization, and again, this was years ago, with that repetitive visualization, things worked out for the highest good of all involved. This is just one experience. This has happened to me over and over again, where I create new states of freedom, not always getting out of a bad situation, sometimes creating great new good. I'm experiencing some great new good now that is also a result of accessing this realm of divine ability. Now, again, like I said at the beginning, there's a disclaimer here that I do not claim to fully operate at the maximum level of the divine ability that's available to me. And I see it as a life process of growth and development to become who we are. And as we become developed in our spiritual resources, we graduate successively to greater uses of the divine potentials that reside within us. Herein lies the importance of watching videos like this, of receiving teachings like this, of constantly stirring ourselves to greater use of the spiritual resources that we have. I hope this has been a blessing to you, and I just want to release into your life today this awareness as we close in this prayer. Spirit of the living God, Spirit of light, Spirit of good, Spirit of the Christ reality, the living Christ consciousness, wash over every person today, every hearer today. I thank you for a loosening of any tying situation that kept people bound to one external circumstance or situation or person or event. And God, I thank you that any traumas that tried to hold people captive in this environment are loosening, and are loosed. And there is a release and a liberation that comes to your mind, that comes to your body now. You feel this release even in your nerves. You feel a floating, you feel a releasing of that which tried to confine you. And I declare that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, and there is a new liberty that is coming to you. There is a new liberty that is washing over you. And as you recognize that you are made in the image and the likeness of God, there is a merging of your spirit. There is a merging of your awareness with the awareness of the divine. And you are being lifted, and you are transcending your troubles, and you are transcending your trials, and you are transcending your tribulations. And as you are transcending, you are coming to a greater awareness that life around you is moving into a reflective, productive realm, from the unseen realm to the seen realm. That as you merge with your inner awareness and your inner knowing of God as your source, then things around you are shifting into a favorable condition, loosening their grip from a situation or a trial that tried to tie you down. And you are moving into your greater good, and you are moving into your greater life. And in this place, there is an awareness for you that is dawning upon you. As the sun rises in a new day, there is a dawning of a new awareness for you. And the dawning of this new awareness for you, of the Christ consciousness at work in you, is loosening you and liberating you into your greater good. As you now realize that your access to all things in the realm of pure potentiality is released to you to open up a portal of divine ability where you can transcend it. A portal of divine ability is opened up for you where you can manifest something new, where you can create new realms and experiences of heaven on earth in your external experience. God, I thank you for this declaration. I thank you for this prayer. I thank you for every hearer today. And I thank you for this teaching that unlocks 3 keys of understanding of divine ability released into our experience. So the next time you, precious person, receive a experience that feels like a challenge, remember that you have a key of understanding that causes you to remember that you are made in the image and the likeness of God, that life is an expression of consciousness, and that in the realm of consciousness, you have access to all things. Now, I thank you for receiving this message today, and that if it means something to you, however you are led to stir it in yourself and to share it, or to give to this, or to subscribe to the channel, I invite you to do all that, because it all, either one or all of it together, just helps these things to spread not only in your own experience, but in the universal or the mass consciousness, as I like to call it. Because even the unseen realm that others don't know is happening, it impacts them. Why do you think people have mood swings? Because there's unseen consciousness that impacts folks. And so when you can have your state of being rooted in these truths, this Christ consciousness awakened within you in these ways we've talked about today, it causes you to access this portal of divine ability. I thank you for this time together, and I invite you to stay apart and stay connected. Hey, if you're not sure how to stay connected, you can stay connected and receive our latest inspirational content by going to www.jasonpowell.faith, and you will see an opportunity to be a part of this email community where we share these updates and we share these teachings through videos, through music on a regular. Thank you for your time today. Much love to you, and God bless.